Hey everyone, this is Ryan with From Corners Unknown, and I'm joined with my co-host here, Connor. This is Voices from Corners Unknown, episode 16, and we got a few more albums to discuss. We've got some sludgy post-metal. I think we've talked a decent bit about some sludge records the last number of episodes. And then we've got some ambient music as well as a new genre we have not discussed, and we are probably going to fumble through like a bunch of idiots. Power electronics. So yeah, it's gonna be bad. Well, it's gonna be rough, and I am the one that decided to talk about this one, and I wanted to subject Connor to my just my sporadic tastes and love for a lot of disparate genres, and I thought that this would be a nice way to kind of drag him through the mud and see what I can pull out of him, what kind of information I can extract from him on his sentiments.
Definitely. Before we get started on it, though, like, I hope that somebody who's actually knowledgeable on how it's made and the sounds being used, like, sends us a list.
Yeah,
they're like,
nice.
These are the terms you should be using.
Right, yeah. And I guess before we get to, I guess it depends on which order you want to talk about the albums, but yeah, the whole genre of power electronics, I'm not going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about because I really don't. But I did a little searching generally into the background of power electronics, and I think this album we are going to discuss is quite different from what is traditionally expected of the genre. I think power electronics is generally like related to really like grisly violence and sex and all this just really very visceral imagery. I read a really interesting little story about a live show that happened, I believe, somewhere in San Francisco or in Oakland, where some artist back in the late 90s like took he had a loaded gun at the show and used that as part of his performance. There's a whole story about it. I believe the individual was Death Squad was the name of the power electronics artist. I haven't been able to read all the documents, but there was a pretty harrowing or interesting account somebody gave about this performance. I was like, oh, that's what power electronics is like, but this album is nothing like that, the one we're going to discuss. But a lot of interesting, I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things to discuss about power electronics. And yeah, if folks know stuff about the genre that we are just so obviously missing, please feel free to correct us or send along artists that you think we should listen to so we can kind of enrich and enhance our vernacular. But with that being said, I guess I should probably say the album titles. We've got Primal, Ephemeral from Mass Culture. That is the sludgy post-metal album. And then we have Secrets of a Distant Star, Secrets from a Distant Star by Bell. And then we also have Scott Lawlor's Transition. So where do you want to pick this episode up?
Well, even though we just talked up the hell out of the power electronics, I kind of want to start with the Scott Lawlor Transition.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I knew that going into the power electronics, just because I knew I wanted to subject you to it, I was like, oh, I want to kind of go on this little tangent. Mm-hmm. But it's probably good that we go into this album first before diving straight into that one.
Yeah, tantalizing your adventure.
Right. So would you, so Scott Lawlor's Transition, I have interviewed, or I've spoken with Scott on the website. We did an artist conversation a little while back, and this is an album he sent along to me, and I've listened to a decent bit of his music, and there are just so many albums of his, it will take me probably tens of lifetimes.
Dude, he has like over 200.
Oh yes, well over.
I saw that. I'm like, whoa.
Right. And it's one of those things where it's like it would take me 10 lifetimes to be able to actually like fully absorb just all the sounds he's produced, all the drones, all the dark ambient, the light ambient, the piano, all these things. But this album he sent along to me just a couple weeks ago, I believe, and he suggested, we talk about this one, and I thought it was a great idea to delve into this one because we've been speaking about some ambient music, and this one is quite heavy in what it's kind of wrangling with or what it's paying tribute to. But do you have, since I've already spoken with Scott, Connor, do you have some background information you maybe pulled on Scott that you want to talk about just to give some folks some context?
I mean, honestly, I didn't really see that much except, the over 200 projects that he's done. And
right.
He's from Corinth, Texas.
Yes, that's right.
But otherwise, I didn't see that much. I don't know.
Right. No, I mean,
place to find info on him. Right.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's got his Bandcamp, and he has a handful of monikers. I believe he also does some harsh noise, some noise stuff under the greatly aptly titled Spank Hooker. That's his moniker, which I think is hilarious.
That's a good one.
So, yeah, and he's obviously a veteran producer of in a bunch of different genres, and as I already described, he has albums across handfuls of labels in different genres, and it's still something where I'm trying to actually just comprehend.
That's crazy. What a talented badass, dude.
Yes,
that's crazy.
I know, and I'm glad that you've not stumbled upon him.
No.
Okay. So this is kind of your foray into his music, or this is kind of like you just getting thrown into the deep end, huh?
Yeah, I'm glad that he recommended this one too. I guess I guess in a way it's a good way to start the journey of Scott.
Right, yeah. And he suggested this is a good one, and I think this one was pretty well, pretty lauded in the ambient community. A number of reviews and other people had a lot, there's just so many albums of his, but a lot of people seem to say this is a very pivotal and very emotional and very deep album, and I think this is a good one to discuss and go into fuller detail. And this one did come out very late last year. I believe it was the 1st of December.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been talking plenty enough already, so you should go ahead and either dive into some of the themes kind of going on in this album, or if you want to just start the discussion.
Well, yeah, first off, the album as a whole.
Yes.
It's pretty long. What is it, probably about an hour?
Yeah.
A little over, maybe.
It's a long album.
Yeah, but overall it's beautiful. There's What would this be considered dark ambient, or is this another type of ambient?
I wish I was more well versed in my. I mean, I can talk about dark ambient sometimes, but it's so artist specific.
There's a lot to it that I don't understand.
Yeah,
but
I would just I don't want to get mired in all the details, but I could probably say or safely say it's just like a form of ambient, just kind of ambient music, light ambient. I know that's not the great. I mean, light dark. That just sounds a little. I don't know. It's not my favorite.
It's gray ambient.
Right. It's somewhere in between. Right.
No, right. But yeah, speaking of which, it definitely doesn't have the darker, scarier vibes. I mean, maybe one of the tracks.
Yeah, one of the tracks definitely does, and we can go into that in more detail. But the other four, correct?
Yeah, the other four overall, it's more of a peaceful,
yeah,
I don't know, transcendental. I don't know. It just made me feel good and just relaxed.
Yeah, definitely. What were the? Do you want to start on specific tracks, or should we? Do you want to do you have some notes on the background of this record? It's a pretty hefty, commemoration of his brother. I don't know how much digging you did into this record, if you have a bunch of background on it or not.
Honestly, I had no idea that was about it. Maybe I didn't click on a correct like little drop down menu or something, but
Yeah,
I didn't see any of that.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, Bandcamp, yeah, there is a drop down, but it was there's like a lot of text, and I actually didn't really stumble upon it until just a week or so ago. I didn't really realize there were so many words in the about section, but essentially this album. Yeah, this album transition. I don't know if you have it open on your page now or if you popped it open, but basically what happened was Scott's brother passed away mid-November of last year, and rest in peace to him, Joe. That's his name.
How did I not see this?
It's
like right there.
I don't know. But this album essentially was written shortly after his passing. And I believe, so Scott spent November 25th to 29th, so about 5 days, 5 tracks. He composed these 5 tracks almost in, the immediate passing of his brother. And as a result, this is the resulting album, and it came out shortly after he completed recording it, as I said, in December. So that's what this record is kind of commemorating the memory, and it's also kind of crystallizes the final moment Scott had with his brother before he passed away.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
I can really see that now. Like, I kind of got those vibes even without knowing the description, but now that I know,
and that's, and in a way,
it kind of
right,
pays off.
Yes. And I think in a way that makes it a little more impactful and a little, it makes it, I don't know, resonates with me a bit more now that I know, because I was going to be like, oh, you're an idiot for not seeing that.
How did I not see that?
Right,
That's
but
so weird.
since you were able to pick up on those sentiments and those feelings without having known it, I think that is a really interesting contrast to just the research I did beforehand. So in a way, I think that's a nice piece of information, or a nice morsel of information, that you're able to kind of get this, get these feelings without having read all the history on it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but going into the songs specifically, where do you want to start, or how do you want to start describing or diving into this?
Man, we could start with the first track, Sacred Ground.
Mm-hmm.
A whopping 17 minutes long.
Yes.
It's it just kind of has that cool pulsing tone that you hear in a lot of this type of ambient music.
Yes.
I don't know, it's just like melancholic almost, and just
there's definitely a somberness to it, if that's a decent word to use. Yes.
It kind of sounds like organs, but I don't think they are.
Yeah. No, it is. It is.
Okay.
And there's some description of it, and it was kind of when Scott mentioned that, it kind of called me back to that one album we discussed way back in the day, the Hazelale album.
It was like
Remember
episode
that?
3 or 4 or something.
Right. Yeah, when we were little tykes learning what the hell we were doing, but like that track is that track. I think. I mean, on that album way back, that was very obviously very on the nose organ, and this one is a little subtler. I think it's definitely like the notes are very sustained and they're drawn out, and they I don't know, I get these really like every second this is passing by, it has like just this warmth, even though it's a little somber. It kind of has that melancholic, depressed feel, as you were saying. It still kind of brings some solace, still kind of feels good, almost like it's almost like I can feel the ambience on my skin.
Yeah,
it's a weird way to I was trying to think about this before we started talking about it. It's like, how do I describe it? But it feels like a warmth, kind of like, like the golden light of the sun kind of shining through a window, and it kind of hits your skin, and it like feels warm as it's kind of refracting through or coming through the window pane. That's like the best description I was able to kind of conjure as I was listening to this.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Well, I think
that's but anyway, go ahead, please.
Like, because I mostly listened to this like right before I went to bed. That's probably why I didn't even see the description. I would just press play, and for some reason I didn't research it as much as I usually do.
No, and that's right. No, and that's fine.
But
that's fine.
yeah, I would just lie there in bed and just kind of zone out to it, and it kind of just made me reflect on my own life too.
Yes.
Like kind of just have these memories come to my brain while I'm listening to it.
Yeah.
And it's nice.
And I think, when you may look at an album like this just on the surface on Bandcamp and you see the track lengths, you may be a little intimidated, but rest assured, I found this to be an engrossing experience, and the first track, specifically Sacred Ground, is a really good way to kind of swoon you into, like, it's a very gentle, it's I don't know, it pulls you in nicely, and I think it gives you a really whole idea of what to expect for the duration of the record. And I think if we wanted to talk about the second track, Whispering Voices, I would say that that's like the darker track. Yeah, and it's, I don't want to use the word creepy, but that was kind of the first word that came to mind. It almost gave me goosebumps, because it felt like kind of people are whispering in your ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a story to this too, where I believe Scott's, it was Scott's mother who was sitting with Joe, who's Scott's brother, and his mother thought she was hearing voices somewhere in the house, and being a spiritual individual, she kind of ascertained that these voices were the angels saying they're ready for Joe to kind of pass on to into the other realm. That's just kind of the backdrop to it. But what do you think about that track?
I liked it. Yeah, like I kind of got that creepy vibe at first, but then it kind of changes later on after the first few minutes.
It does.
And it kind of goes back to that nice, kind of sad, but, slightly uplifting, pulsing.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of these like lower like hums and drones that in a way sounded like males like chanting, like this really deep male chant. But it's not.
Right.
It's just some type of whatever.
Yeah, and that's something that has always perplexed me about certain, ambient passages, because I know that because when the song opens specifically, you get like choir like vocals. You kind of get these vocalizations and almost these deep baritone ahs, these sustained, really long ahs that kind of, I don't know, they're a little chilling, but they feel like they kind of have a neoclassical or a classical feel to them. And I never know exactly how they're generated, like if it's a plug-in in your synthesizer or if it's some sort, I don't know how it works. And I'm not sure if they're actually like pre-programmed or if this is somebody that kind of I don't know how they're created.
Don't know if it's from scratch or if it's
right. I feel like that. Right, I feel like they're not specifically, because I feel like I've listened to a handful of albums where similar voices of kind of similar pitch and timbre, like the way they sound and feel. I'm under the impression that it's consistent throughout various ambient albums I've listened to, but we don't have to get caught up on all of that.
Yeah.
But, and I like that track especially too, because there's, as you were saying later on in the track, it kind of shifts a little bit, and there's kind of this heftiness that comes with it, and you can almost feel the stillness in the air, like there's certain passages where it kind of everything falls silent, but just for a second. But it I don't know, it almost kind of made me feel like I was in that headspace, or in that space that Scott was kind of crystallizing with this record. I'm not sure, but and were there other specific tracks? I mean, I know it seems like we could easily do a track by track of this one.
Yeah, we easily could.
Yes.
I mean, I like Transition a lot too. That one,
Yeah.
it's
What
27
about that one?
minutes long, but
Yeah, it's a
great.
huge track.
That one has like, it's definitely more of an upbeat, not so dark track, but
Yes.
yeah, it has that pulsing that just gives you that feeling. I'm so bad at describing it, but
No, it definitely has a bassiness to it. It kind of has like this depth, this undercurrent that kind of lulls you to sleep, or it kind of lulls you into this warm, almost like this like euphoric state of mind, like not like an ephemeral moment, where it's kind of this fleeting feeling. It's kind of like this expanded breath. I can't. Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time describing some of this stuff myself, man. I mean, that's why like we're not necessarily professionals here.
no,
But
yeah, like that one was just, there's lots of like kind of like slow kind of builds up, and then it kind of dies down, and then it builds up again.
Right.
And like there's slight little changes in like the tones throughout the 27 minutes.
Yes.
And yeah, it's just so peaceful. Like,
yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, and it's and it's again, it's one of those things where if you look at the track, you're like, oh crap, I can't listen to 27 minutes, but it just breezes by. Whenever I listen to this album, I like look at the time, I'm like, holy crap, it's almost over. Like, it just, especially on Transition. And I also wanted to just go back and touch on Momentary Presence, because I thought that was a pretty beautiful track as well. And that features Wings of an Angel, who I believe is an artist based in Israel. I'm not familiar with their work, but that track has quite an exuberant happiness. It kind of has, I would say that's the most overtly warm track on the record. The third one, I don't know if you agree with me on that.
I agree too. In my notes, I'm like, this one just like made me randomly smile, like,
yes,
without even like noticing. I just realized like, oh, I'm
right.
just kind of have a little smile right now.
Right, yeah. There's a lushness, and it kind of has this mystical tinge to it, and I believe that this track, Momentary Presence, relates to kind of this supernatural feeling or this supernatural moment Scott had when he was sitting with his brother, Joe, side by side, and I think he said something he wrote something to the effect that he thought there was somebody standing near the side of the bed, and like there was some presence there, and Scott called out like, who's there, and nothing kind of called back. So he just felt like there was something, or something like some sort of phantasmagoric feeling there for a moment, or there was some individual, and I think that captures it really well. And I find that to be an interesting juxtaposition with Whispering Voices, because Whispering Voices kind of has that darker tinge to it, but Momentary Presence has that more uplifting, euphoric feeling to it. And I think that's a nice dynamic to have in the album as a whole. I think that it balances it out really well, and it doesn't make, if it was just 5 straight tracks of, Momentary Presence was kind of similar to Whispering Voices. I don't know. I just think that the different tones play really well off of each other. It makes for more of an engaging listen.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
But yes, what'd you think of the last track?
That one's pretty good. I like how you add in the piano to that one. It's like, this nice resonating piano that kind of mingers along throughout the track. And that one's like a little sadder feeling, but it's still beautiful. I think that's because this is the sound the piano makes,
Yes.
And it's definitely, it kind of reflects back onto other tracks in the album. And what the hell did Connor write in his notes right here? Like, that doesn't even make sense, dude. But I really enjoyed the piano on that one.
Yeah,
nice
that piano.
The end of the album.
Right, yeah, and I think what makes this bit pretty remarkable. I think that that's probably my favorite moment, especially when you're listening so you're listening to the fourth track transition. It's long, slow, unfurling, kind of warm, and then when the last goodbye hits, it's just a single piano key that just kind of thumps down. And I don't know, when that note hits, like, I don't know, I felt so, I don't know, it was like depressing but uplifting at the same time.
Yeah.
It just kind of had so much weight to it, and just the way transition is kind of swooning you, kind of like getting you to relax, and then that note hits right when the last goodbye, the final track opens. It's huge.
Yep.
And I don't know, I felt all the emotion right in that moment. I think it was kind of like a big bang, or it was just kind of like all of this, compressed feeling, all the tears, kind of just crystallized right there in that moment.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when you lose a loved one. It's sad,
right.
But at the same time, they're no longer suffering. And
right.
Yeah,
right.
Moving on
and
to
I think
hopefully
that
better things.
Yes, and I think that is very well articulated with that track. And as the piano kind of fades out about halfway through, it kind of flickers off into the auras and becomes a little more what you would expect from, just ambient. Like, it kind of has this mystical swirling feel as it closes out. But yeah, what would you recommend folks check this one out? I mean, since this is your first experience with Scott Lawlor's music, how would you gauge this relative to, say, other ambient albums? How'd you feel about this one?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. It had its moments, and now that I know what it's about, I don't know. I still am so mind blown that I didn't even scroll down and see that. I just don't understand how that happened, but
yeah, I know you're usually on top of your shit.
Yeah,
but
it was great.
At the same time, as I said, I think it serves a good purpose, because it kind of illustrates the power of it without you even knowing what it's about.
Maybe for people that listen to it, maybe you should listen to it as a whole without reading what it's about, and then listen to it again after reading what it's about.
Right.
That might be a good way to do it. But I enjoyed it. It had its ups and downs, and the emotions it gives off, and it's a good one. And the fact that the guy has so much more, I need to do my Scott research.
Yeah, it's almost, I mean, for just people like us, or just regular folks just doing our thing, it's like I said, it's lifetimes of music, just being able to sit down and listen to all this stuff. And I'm sure that there are plenty of releases that aren't even on his Bandcamp page, that are on other labels. So it's like getting a full discography. Maybe I'll ask him for a master list and we can tally up how many albums there are. But I'm sure that there are tons. Mm-hmm. But yes, highly recommend folks check this one out. This is a phenomenal album. All right, well, where do you want to pick up the conversation?
Let's jump into Primal, Ephemeral by Mass Culture.
Man, you're just delaying the inevitable, aren't you?
I mean, I usually like to break it up, like the instrumental stuff with.
I get you. That actually is that's a fair rebuttal to my petty jab at you. What would you? So you picked this one, and I'm very glad you stumbled upon this one. How'd you want to talk about this? This band is Mass Culture. Yeah, how'd you find this one?
All right, so this might be the record-breaking going through Bandcamp pages. I don't know what it is about the second half of August, but
it's slow.
Yeah, I don't know, but I went through 54 pages of the kind of this general new releases on the metal section of Bandcamp.
Right.
Actually, I probably went through more, because before I went through the general, metal, I went through individual little genres within that, the metal section, and I'm like, you know what, screw it. I'm so over listening to all this garbage. I'm just gonna go through every single fucking page on Bandcamp, and I think these guys showed up on page 54. But
so this was, so this band Mass Culture, they're from Athens, Greece, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so this album, I'm also surprised it took you so long to find this one, because this album came out August 10th of this year, so this is a pretty recent release, only a few weeks old. And they seem to have debuted to the world with an EP named Amoralism back in June of 2012.
Yes.
They had a split with a band titled Fields of Locust, which came out in April 2015, and then they contributed a track to a benefit compilation in May of 2016, and I believe you could call this their quote-unquote debut LP, or their first LP. But it's been a while between some of their, between the releases 2012 to 2018, a full EP to a full LP. So it's been a while. But yeah, what about this band struck you? Like, what about this hooked you? And yeah, start this conversation off. I've been talking way too much.
Yeah, well, first off, the initial track, already grabbed me. But then I went to their Facebook to kind of get more background info, and I like how they actually compared themselves to some other bands.
Sure, yeah.
They claim to kind of take influence from Neurosis and ISIS. And then more
ISIS is not. We're not talking about the terrorist group, people. Please know this.
ISIS was a band before this terrorist group was a thing.
Yes. I want to say that so people don't take that out of context.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they also said Yob and Time to Burn, which I believe is a post-hardcore band. But you can kind of see some post-hardcore in some of their sound.
Yeah, for sure. I've not listened to them before either. That band that you Time to Burn. I'll probably get raked over the coals for saying that, but whatever. Anyway.
But yeah, first off, that first track, I tried to find a translation. I don't know if you did.
You want to compare Google translations? I got the Fear of the Voice.
I couldn't find anything. I don't know why. But yeah,
you must be really bad at,
I guess,
copy pasting, Control C.
Dude, that's exactly what I did, and the only thing that came up, there was no, I don't know. But I'm just gonna go with what you said. Okay. But it, as usual, with kind of these sludgy doom, whatnot albums, the guitar has grabbed me.
Yes.
And yeah, there's some tasty riffage.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yes.
Starting with the first song, literally the first riff you hear, I'm like, oh, dude, this is intoxicating. I got to keep listening. And yeah, it's just some sludgy, chunky, festive guitars with just heavy beat downs, and it kind of starts off slow, and then it just builds up, and then these kind of washed out instrumentals come in, and yeah, it just kind of gets noisier, and there's so many different layers and just coolness.
Right. Yeah, what I liked about this one, as you were saying, there's kind of, they employ that nice atmospheric touch with the guitars, where they kind of do that black metal, not like black metal in the traditional sense, but they kind of have that tremolo, it kind of creates that shimmering veil of atmosphere. I don't know if you know what I'm, it kind of has that wash, kind of just this large backdrop. And that track, the way they are using that guitar riff technique, and the bass guitar, Jesus Christ, the bass guitar,
bass is so good in this album.
Yeah, the whole production of this album is excellent, but you can hear every single note coming from the bass, and it's superb. But yes, when I first listened to this track, after you turned me onto it, I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds a little traditional. And then there's that little airy respite where, you get the intro, and they kind of slow everything down, and then just this plodding, sludgy riff just crushes you in the teeth. And it's just, it's like a menacing hook, super heavy. And it's almost like one of those things, I think we talked about this before, this where they kind of pack in the punch without building the atmosphere that you may traditionally expect in, say, a post-metal song, because certain post-metal tracks can be 8, 10, 12 minutes long, and they kind of just condense this massive riff into this atmospheric song, and it's only a little over 4 minutes, and it's quite remarkable that they can pack such a punch in such a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then jump to the second track, the tower turned into strength. I would say it's one of my more favorite ones off this.
Yeah, for sure.
And dude, just the riffs, I can't get over them. They're just so good.
Right.
Like, there's some nice melodicness to it all, but they're so heavy hitting.
Yes.
And and they just build and become more dynamic.
Yeah, that was a point I wanted to bring up. They do a really nice job kind of layering it. They don't go full frontal with everything at, right at the outset. They kind of have the guitar and they kind of like just build in these layers, and it kind of gets denser with each new bit they introduce as seconds pass. It's pretty heavy, and I would say that this is a pretty atmospheric and brooding track, and it kind of gave me a feeling of kind of like looking up at the stars, like kind of like looking up at like the oppressiveness. I mean, it's not really oppressive. I mean, I'm just kind of projecting my own feelings, but just kind of has like this cold pitch of night feel to it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
and yeah, the bass, like if we keep talking about it, just stands out. You can hear it underneath all these like layers.
Right, and it's one of those things where it's just the tone of it matches so well with everything else, and it like it protrudes out from all the instruments, but it just fits so perfectly within the context of the instruments. And I think for folks who like this stuff, and when you listen to it, that will be one of the key. That'll be probably one of the most notable things you'll hear right out the gate.
Yeah.
But
and the vocal delivery too, like it's this kind of strange kind of combo of like kind of guttural death metal-y, traditional sludge doom-ish vocals, but then there's like a tinge of like I can kind of see the post-hardcore in it, where it's like more of like a just blatant yell.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the vocals are enshrouded in almost like a static of some sort. There's definitely some layering on it where it's not just the person's voice coming through. It sounds like it's kind of muffled or encrusted in just this feedback or some sort of. There's something that's kind of muffling it. And it kind of makes it a little more intense in a way. I don't know how to quite describe it. Correctly. I don't know. I hopefully you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know how to describe it either, but and then it's so funny how these bands, so you can't understand the lyrics usually, but like if you actually read the lyrics, they're just so, I don't know, there's a lot of effort put into them. It feels like in that song, for instance, part of it's the sun is set in the north, a star that tasted like fire. You walk into the core of our bones. The tower turned into strength. There's just some kind of cool, well-written, poetic-like stuff in there that you can appreciate.
Yeah, and I think it kind of, I don't know, it kind of conjures some interesting imagery in my mind. It kind of gives me some, I find it to illustrate and kind of flesh out, and it just seems to kind of lend itself to some nice imagery and a nice way to kind of conceptualize what they're going with in their sound. And I think you do a better job paying attention to the lyrics than I do. That's something that I've been trying to get a bit more diligent at, looking into the themes and concepts that are going on in each track. But I did start to notice some of those descriptions, and I thought that they kind of added a nice texture to it, because it's so easy to kind of write lyrics off if you can't understand what they're saying, but when you read them, yes. And so you said tower that turned into strength, or the tower turned into strength, that's one of your favorite tracks?
Yeah. And then I don't know if you want to go to another one, but there's some more that are even more of my favorites too.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, I was gonna say the third one, Dismantle the Knots, maybe my favorite one by
that one's
far.
up there with me too.
Yeah, they kind of have that. It opens with that kind of anticipatory drum beat. It's kind of enmeshed in these wispy guitars, and you get that delectable deep bass thrum, and it kind of cracks out of that wispy, airy feel, kind of like that ethereal, ephemeral, nice, stupid pun, feeling, and it kind of gets into like that chunkier, sludgy, posty guitar tone. I mean, you get this, some droning wails, and you get this nice crunch of the drums and the bass guitar. But what kind of struck you about this track?
Yeah, pretty much all what you said. The bass was definitely the thing that stood out for me the most in that one. Out of all the other tracks, I think I liked the bass the most in that one.
Right.
It's so slamming, I don't know. And like the vocals in that one do this kind of cool, like weird reverberating cycling thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it better than that, but
right.
Yeah, it's kind of like, if you look at the lyrics, it kind of does like this, like, what is truth? And then, like, in parentheses, clay. And then, what is lies? And then, like, in parentheses
Inner
again.
veins.
And they kind of, like, the vocals kind of play off of that. Where, like, they give one, like, kind of thing, and then...
And someone else is, like, hushing the other bit.
Yes.
Almost. Or, like, they're kind of whispering, or, like, they're echoing a different... Like a contrast to what they were saying, or like they're supplementing it in some way.
There's kind of like two different things going on at once. That's kind of cool.
Right. That is interesting. Yeah, and I think that this one has a pretty This has a really driving groove as well. And as I was kind of describing, I didn't go into it as well as I could have, but they have a really great building of tension in this track, and then there's this really nice moment when it's kind of the guitar is left to its own devices, and it's kind of doing its thing, and everything else falls away, and the way it builds anticipation, you know shit's gonna go off, and you're just like, all right,
and then
and you're just waiting. yes, and then when it blasts into that groove,
it's so tasty.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and there's something, and I wasn't able to find it, but there's something about this band's tone that reminds me of another band or two that I've listened to within like the last 8 months, and I couldn't figure out who it was. I did some searching, and I just could not find it in my brain. Maybe one day I'll re-up it, but yeah, these guys strike some pretty. They have a lot of interesting textures. In these songs, and that's definitely one of my favorite ones. But anyway, what do you want to go into? Maybe another track or two?
Yeah, let's do at least two more. I mean, maybe 2.5, because the next track, number 4, binaural phase infection.
Binaural phase infection. Yeah, come on, man, get. I mean, that one's in English.
But no, that one's more of just like an ambient track. It's like this weird spacey, bassy ambient. Dark ambient track almost. They even kind of mention in their description there's some dark ambience going on, but
right.
Yeah, like I could listen to 40 minutes of that alone, like obviously.
Just put it on loop.
But it's this dark and ominous ambience, which is pretty cool.
Right.
But anyways, let's just go straight into track 5, which might actually be my favorite.
Yeah, I marked that one down too. That and Dismantling the Knots, both of those for sure.
Yeah, I totally realized that's like a symbol of some kind. Just the N.
I think it's pi.
Just the pi?
I think it's pi.
Okay.
I think it is. Yeah. I mean,
that's what I was thinking.
Doesn't. Usually pi, whenever I see it, it has kind of the two bits sticking off the top left and top right. And this one I looked at, I was like, what the hell is this? And then I just did a copy paste into Google, and I checked a couple sources, and I think it's pi.
Okay.
It's just, it's just.
It's double checking. That's what I got too.
Yeah.
But that might be one of my favorite ones, because like the dark ambience kind of carries on to the beginning of this one.
Yes.
And then it builds up, and then like just instantly just fast thundering, like sludge instrumentals just blast in, and right away just the guitars and bass, you're just like, dude, holy shit, I can't help but smile. But
yes.
And then the drums even have like a cool little slick beat to them in this one too.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of changes tempo, and then like just a stampede of instrumentals come in again.
Right.
And like, dude, if I were to ever see these guys live, which hopefully it might happen in the future,
maybe one day,
maybe 20 years, I don't know, might be kind of hard to break into America from where they're at. But
right.
Yeah, it's great. I would love to mosh to this. But and then towards the end, it kind of had that cool, like, I don't know, old school Mastodon sound. I don't know how to describe that.
Yeah, the closing riff, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, it has like that. It definitely has like that groove or like that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And yeah, there are a handful of bands that I listened to somewhat recently where it's just like, yeah, it sounds like this old Mastodon. Like it just has like that slickness to it. You're just like, God damn, like it just hits you so hard and it's so memorable. It's just like this little, this little worm that just kind of gets in your ear.
Yeah, it's fucking badass. And then the last verse and the lyrics and that I really kind of liked. Of course, I didn't understand it while listening to it, but when I looked at it, I'm like, that's cool. The white pigeons mark peace, but worms are still being eaten. Weak are sacrificed once again in the name of prosperity. Hell is compromised. Hell is not out of this world. All is nothing. Nothing is all. It's probably just some nice, like, depressing lyrics, but
right.
I don't know. Just the wording. It's nice.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I would say on the whole, I really liked this album. There are a few tracks that follow Pi, but for whatever reason, when I listened to this one, I've listened to this one a number of times. I found like the first like 5 tracks are probably my favorite.
Same.
And I like the other 3 tracks, but for whatever reason, the first 5 tracks hit me the hardest and stay with me the most. I think in some of the latter tracks, you definitely get some. I think that they're a little more atmospheric. I think that could be a fair way to describe them. Yeah, but some of the, some of like those meaty, those sludgy hooks, they kind of they don't degrade. They're just not as present in the latter half of the album. But overall, I really enjoyed this one. Okay, and this brings us to my little exercise in torment encounter. Bell's album Secrets from a Distant Star. So this album is quite a remarkable one. This is kind of I would say that this is probably I think it'd be fair to say this is kind of my introduction, or was an introduction for me to power electronics, a genre I'm not familiar with. I'm slowly becoming familiar with harsh noise, things of that sort, experimental music. And this album was sent along to me by Sandesh, who runs Cyclopean Eye Productions, and he's based in Bangalore, India. And I would have never listened to this record had he not reached out to me on Facebook some number of months ago, and he dropped this record. He just kind of sent me a track on SoundCloud titled Paperclip, which is the final track on this album. And I listened to it and I was like, what in the fuck is this? This is remarkable. And it was just huge. And I love the droning, just like the cacophony of it, the harshness and like the ambience. And it created such a weird feeling in my gut, in my stomach. I was just like, what the hell is going on? And this project, Sandesh tortured me because this project, Bell, very simply titled, is actually a mystery project of a single artist who is in a well-established, well-known United States black metal band.
Oh, shit.
But Sandesh won't fucking tell me who it is, and nobody knows who this is besides Sandesh.
Yeah, I can't find shit
people.
on this. That just describes why.
Right. So there's no real information you can glean about this project. I am hoping I can someday, and I don't know if it'll happen, but I would really love to interview this individual and maybe like have them put on some sort of like voice garbler or something, like some pitch shifter, so I don't know who it is.
Maybe that weird John Doe, like super deep and
right. Because I would really love to talk to this individual about this album, because Sandesh, I recently did a conversation with him, and I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but he did say that Bell will be having some new music, some new power electronic tunes coming out, I believe, sometime next year. So if folks are into power electronics, I think you'll enjoy this. And it's as I described in the beginning of this episode, what makes this so different is, at least from my research, power electronics seems to kind of revolve around a lot of visceral imagery, a lot of horrific things about humanity, atrocities, and just how, I don't know, just violence and sex and just a lot of nasty stuff. And this album is just like transcendental. It's such a weird, and it's like a concept album too, and it kind of has this nice blend of these shamanistic droning tones and these voices, and but it also has harshness in it too, and it's such a weird album. Like there are passages where it's ambient, and then there are passages where it's just these dense drones, and then there are these moments where it's just like, it just sounds like ear-grating feedback, and then there are sound bites of people that sound as if they're dying of disease. It's such a weird album, but I fucking love it. And this album was recorded over a 3-year period from 2014 to 2017, and the description that this J card on the cassette, I have the cassette right here in front of me, and literally it just says, Secrets from a Distant Star was written and recorded from 2014 to 2017 from the inner space for the outer space. That is the most information I have on this project, but I hope this will be a bit of an interesting discussion, and I'm hoping someday when I decide to start doing YouTube videos where people can actually see my ugly mug, I'm hoping to do a more in-depth analysis of this tape, this release. And I should probably also note before we dive into this that you can't stream this album in full on the web. There's only a cassette release which you can buy from Cyclopean Eye Productions. I believe it's 12 euros inclusive of shipping, so basically anywhere in the world you can get it for 12 euros. And there are a couple tracks that you can listen to on SoundCloud for free, and I'll link those if folks are interested. And if you're interested in acquiring this, I can get you in touch with Sandesh. And yeah, well, I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm selling you this product. It's just, for whatever reason, it's intentionally not on Bandcamp. There are just a couple tracks. So I just don't want to lead you astray and hype this up and then be like, oh, by the way, you can't get this. I just don't want, I don't want to disappoint anybody. So I've rambled enough. What did you think?
Well, you sure did talk it up to me, like wondering how I would like it. But you know what, I fucking loved it. Like,
did you?
Yeah, it was cool. It definitely was a breath of fresh air to my ears.
Yes.
But yeah, it's cool. Just the strange electrical tones and noises, and just the crazy crap that comes out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like we were saying, the kind of shamanistic chants and all that stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, overall, I enjoy the hell of it. There's a lot of craziness and a lot of just overall coolness that I enjoyed.
Yeah, do you want to dive into some specific tracks?
Yeah, I mean,
or any tracks that really struck a nerve or kind of struck a chord with you?
The first two were cool, like, kind of had some cool, kind of threw you into it. Some nice electrical noises, which I have no idea how to describe, and like some nice drone, and you kind of get some of those faint, like, shamanistic hums and stuff, but it doesn't come fully yet.
Right.
And then track number 2, actually.
The bell, yeah. So track number 2 is the bell to full rotation in parentheses.
Yeah, that was the first one that really caught me.
Right.
It kind of had that weird, it kind of almost sounds like an electrical guitar, like kind of being distorted and trippy.
And I can't say for certain if this is like a key feature or a key aspect of the power electronics paradigm, a key dimension of it, but there's a heavy use of these oscillating loops, like they kind of go whoop, 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 and they just kind of have like this whirring that kind of sounds like it's spinning around your head, and it's just like perpetually just
goes
spiraling. Yeah, and it gets really intense in certain moments, and I think the bell to full rotation, the second track, it's pretty intense, at least when it opens. You kind of get like that harsh oscillation, and it feels like it's like endlessly cycling, just kind of swirling infinitely in these circles, and it's kind of dizzying to listen to.
It's like kind of almost like a bell that's getting hit, and then just unleashes the sound that kind of just does that weird warbling fucking strange noise.
Yes.
But then it has like that more caustic, like weird distorted sound. I'm like, I'm like, dude, is it? I don't know. Is Megatron trying to speak to me? Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
it sounds like this weird Transformer like voice almost.
Yeah, you get these little robotic vocal like these robotic murmurs that protrude out, and then you get this. There's this little bit in this track too, which I found interesting, where it's pretty harsh from the outset, and then it kind of opens up and it kind of takes on a bit of an ambient vibe for a second. There's kind of like this bellowing, this the oscillation, the dense thumping kind of fades away for a second, and it gives you like this little respite, like it kind of gives you a second to breathe, and then the harsh drone loop just kind of cracks back in and just kind of knocks you over the back of the head, and it's just circling about. And it's hard to describe. Mm-hmm. Like there are a lot of layers. It's very dense. Like every song is relatively dense, but I like this one. And you have some scratchy warbles that are kind of tearing across these oscillations. But are there other tracks that you like found rather notable?
Yeah, there's at least 3 more that made it into, like, I would say my top 3. I really enjoyed actually track 3. Fuck, I don't want to go into all these, but the law of
I could go into all of them.
I could too.
We don't have to. Yeah, I could talk about every.
Maybe like a whole another hour.
Yes,
but the law of the cosmic hammer, track 3.
Yeah, that one's great.
That one had like some cool high pitched, like, it kind of reminded me of like really fucking strange, distorted, safe and sane fireworks. Like, I don't remember what they're called, like the Piccolo Peats or whatever. But it has like an electrical like noise wrapped around like a high pitched firework going off. And then it has these weird like scratchy, I don't know, car skidding noises. Kind of remind me like that kind of just repeat and like kind of make a beat out of it. I probably sound so ignorant, but
No. I mean, I think that this is. I'll make a video on this at some point for people to they'll hopefully like. But it's a struggle for us to describe this. But I don't know. I find it so compelling and so interesting. I think it's worth giving this the time.
Down.
Right.
And then there's like another like strange, like kind of deeper, distorted sound. Kind of sounds like a horn going off, like a deep, like bellowing horn. And it also kind of sounds like a fucking like Bronchiosaurus, dinosaur. Like it's going like blah.
Right.
It's strange, but I love it.
And I think it may kind of play into what the theme of this album is, kind of how I was describing how this diverts from what you would traditionally expect from, say, a power electronics record, in that this record seems to be concerned, or it's kind of telling a story of these primordial, like it's like this primordial story. I don't know if you saw the album artwork, but it kind of has, it has a couple primates looking at a UFO that's kind of coming down. It's more like cartoonish in its depiction, I would say. But it has these couple primates with some skulls on sticks, and they're kind of sitting by the river, and they're looking up at this UFO it seems like it's coming out from the sun, or there's like this glisten behind it. And I think that is encapsulated in kind of the description you were saying, with like that bellowing horn where it sounded like a dinosaur or some weird sound, like it seems like it's all kind of within that time frame, right? Like where humanity was
like pre-human.
Right, exactly. Like very, very early, and it's like these songs are somehow encapsulating or trying to like reignite or capture that sentiment. And I think that horn, that bell sound, or that bellowing sound, and then mixed with those shamanistic vocals throughout, because as you were saying, those shamanistic vocals pop up. I don't know if I could say that I don't know if I know it well enough to say that they pop up in every track, but they're definitely threaded throughout the bulk of the tracks. For sure. Yeah, and apparently that those vocals were actually from a real shaman in the United States, some lady. Like those are actual, like that was a literal kind of a chant.
That is too cool.
Yeah, and like the individual who did this somehow kind of pitch shifted and warped, and there are some vocals that come through on this that sound like they're more male, but I think that they're just pitch shifted from the exact same. It's hard for me to tell because everything is so manipulated. I really can't say, but I feel like they may have taken that one shaman's chant. Yeah, and then kind of cut it up and screwed with it, and then kind of melded it together in various tracks. Mm-hmm. But Law of the Cosmic Hammer, what other tracks do you want to go into?
Track 4 was probably my favorite.
Amazon Sun.
Sun. It has, I would say this is where like the shamanistic, chants and all that really take place.
Right.
And like I could totally see how it could be like a woman now in this one. It kind of has that like kind of elderly almost sound.
Yes.
And it just kind of goes through it. Like I was picturing kind of like a tribe on the Amazon like river.
Right.
But just in the jungle. And it just really had that tribal feel. I think I heard like some drum beats in there. I don't know.
There are. Yeah, they're layered and they're deep. Like there is in the beginning, you kind of get these, this little loop, and then really deep, you can hear these little drum patterns, like somebody's kind of hitting some drum skins or something of that sort. And then the shaman's voice emerges shortly after you hear those little drum patterns, and I found that those vocals added a really. It's such a weird juxtaposition because I found, for some reason, I just find the voice so compelling and so ethereal and just so otherworldly, and then it's just contrasted with these mechanical buzzes and like these harsh words. It's such a weird clash of sounds, but it sounds magnificent.
Dude, it is great. Like, that track really just brought me to a time long ago.
Right. And I think that track is pretty damn good in kind of giving folks a taste of what is going on, like from a dynamic perspective, like the kind of the perfect blend of these two extremely different times, like these two different sounding voices coming together to form this track. Mm-hmm. But were there other tracks you want? Or go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it kind of has that cool futuristic-y alien, mechanical sound mixed with the primal, ancient Earth sounds. But
right, and I think that was an observation I had in a couple of the later on tracks, like some of these drones, these outlandish sounding words, they almost sound otherworldly, like they are from a UFO, maybe. Like that's the best way I could describe it. Like it kind of takes on or it embodies some metallic, some unidentified flying object. And I think that comes through quite well. But are there other tracks that you want to talk about?
Yeah, we might as well go with track 7, Mercy Death, which definitely kind of sounds like how the power electronics traditionally are supposed to be, the way you're describing them.
Yes, you get those blood-curdling screams. That shit fucking made my hair stand on end.
Especially after like the first 6 tracks. They're all, kind of have that sound to them, like we've been talking about. But then you get to track 7, you just start to hear these just gnarly screams and just shrieks. And they're so disturbing, but
this lady is like screaming out like, I can't breathe, and like, help, I can't breathe, and like she's just like, I mean, it's not like she's saying it like she's she's not concerned, like she's like just just freaking out. Like it's very harrowing in the delivery. I don't know where it comes from, and I think that there was also a little passage of some other vocals that were going on a little bit before, or no, just shortly after some of her screams that you get in the beginning. Because her screams are kind of layered throughout, and there's kind of like this interesting little monologue going on, and I don't know what they were trying to say. I thought I heard a remark that the individual said, like, something about trying to kill myself, etc., but I was like, and then I've listened to the track, 10, 15 times, and I still can't get it, so
Same.
I'll report back sometime later. And then there's also a weird touch, comes out of left field in this track as well, Mercy Death, track 7. There's like this weird hi-hat snare clopping, like the da da ka da 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 ka, and it just comes in out of nowhere, and it takes on like just like a more industrial-esque vibe for a little bit, and then it just fades out. It's such a weird, it's like a super staticky, frothy snare, and then just kind of blended with this kick drum, and it just kind of comes out of left field, and it kind of, I don't know, I think it's a nice way to break up the pace of everything else, but it's definitely unexpected.
Well, I definitely feel like this track in general was kind of thrown in the middle of the album to kind of break it apart,
right,
and give us this kind of gnarly sound. Actually, at one point, Dasha walks into the room, because one of the times I was listening to it, I didn't have headphones on, and I was just kind of playing it out to there, and she's just like, "Please, I can't take this anymore."
That is, and I think that track is very much the harshest track to listen to. It's pretty. I don't want to say it's difficult to get through, because I don't find it difficult to get through, but it's definitely
pretty used to this.
right. But it's a pretty harrowing track, and it definitely stands apart in the context of the rest of the songs. And I do want to just go back for a second to the Voice of a Dead Universe, which is track 6. I really like that one, because that one takes on a bit. I mean, it's a shorter track, and I feel like that may be more of a a pseudo interlude track, but I liked that one as well. It contrasts with Mercy Death quite a bit, in that Voice of a Dead Universe is more ambient in its composition. You kind of get these, it sounds like rumbles of thunder, and like these unfurling sheets of static, and they're kind of slowly kind of creeping out into this black sea, this black void. But it's not particularly harsh. Like, you can kind of feel the openness behind, or kind of above, below, between all the different layers, and it kind of just has a more ambient embodiment. It just kind of has this openness to it, and I don't know, I like the way that kind of gives you it's a little more relaxing in a sense, kind of like Amazon Sun, how it's an interesting clash. Voice of a Dead Universe is a little more, I found it a little more relaxing, and then when you go into Mercy Death, it's just
you're just thrown in for a loop, dude.
Yeah, it really hits you hard. But I think we could probably just, I don't know how you felt about the last track, but to keep this a little brief, because I could probably talk another hour about this. Paperclip. Did you like that track as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool layering in that one. There's just so much going on, and you still kind of have the shaman kind of hum to it.
Yes. And
it was just really just kind of, I don't know, you just got like kind of like the best parts of this, and you just put it all together, and there's this nice kind of these beats over a drone, and it takes on this form where it creates this really mesmerizing loop, and I think that I failed to bring that up on a couple other tracks, but on Paperclip specifically, I think it's very well exhibited in that it's dense, and it kind of swells and gets big, and it's massive, and
it's pretty engrossing, but the way the oscillation builds, like it kind of has like just this. I can't even make mouth noises to try and articulate how it sounds. I was going to, but that would have been extremely cringy.
Oh, dude, it was really hilarious.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't. Jesus Christ. But the way that track kind of, I don't know, it just creates this oscillating loop, and it grows and swells and it fades, and then there's this moment where it's building tension, and you can hear like this little clicking sound in the background for like a minute or two, where it's kind of you can tell that it's, at least to my ear, it was kind of signaling, okay, there's gonna be some like big change, like there's gonna be some sort of change of pace in this track, and it goes and goes and goes, and you're just like, okay, what the hell is this thing doing? Like, why is this thing kind of scratching my ear? And then just at this right moment, the vocals like kind of fade out, and then the shamanistic vocal kind of pops in, and then that little scratchy bit fades out, and then this like super dense bass just kind of starts washing over you, you know? Like there's just that moment where it's just pure bliss for me.
Same.
Absolutely love it. And yeah, I think to kind of go back over, I don't want to go into all the other tracks, but there are definitely a lot of mesmerizing, oscillating drones that are featured throughout this record, and despite some of the harsh pangs and the clangs and the stuff that may sound off-putting, the mesmerizing drone beneath kind of keeps you entranced as this record plods along. It's pretty remarkable. I'm still not exactly sure why the last track is titled Paperclip.
I kind of get the vibe maybe like this is the end of the album, and you just kind of you throw a paperclip on the album, you know, like it's all done. Let's just put it all together now and keep it all together. I don't know.
Oh,
but like
actually,
especially at the end, because it kind of loops back to the beginning. Like it kind of the end of the song kind of sounds like the first track. I don't know.
Actually, you know what? Man, I think I was being extremely dense. I was trying to think of like some profound reason, and then literally you explain that so blatantly, and it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that's a good point, because it literally, the last bit of Paperclip, it ties back to the first track called Call to the Himalayan Snow Creature, or the Yeti, and yep, that's exactly right. So there you go, man, dude. You beat me at my own game on this one.
Dude. I started off kind of dumb on this episode, and gotta throw in some intelligence.
You gotta get 1 point. But what? So what did you think though for overall for like as power electronics, what have you? Some people may not even call this real power electronics. I'm not a purist. I don't know what. I don't have enough knowledge to be able to make this assessment, but what do you think about this?
I mean, even if it's not pure power electronics, this album definitely worked on getting me into this kind of noise. So
sure,
it did that. So I would say that's a good thing.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting one to recommend to folks too. I'm not too sure what who to recommend it to. I am a lover of all things really strange. Usually the stranger and the weirder the music is, the more I tend to like it.
Yeah, it's Ryan music.
And yeah, right. Thanks. Yeah. But there are plenty of artists that I stumble upon, and I think I'm gonna add this one is on or near the top of my pile for favorite releases of this year so far, especially just because it's so different from what I'm used to listening to, and as I've said, the mesmerizing qualities of it are remarkable, and the interweaving of those shamanistic chants, it really is a transcendental listen. And hopefully, if folks exhibit interest in me doing a more in-depth analysis on some YouTube videos, maybe I'll, if folks actually give a crap, maybe I will dive or try to dive a bit deeper in this one. And given Connor's little note about Paperclip, I know exactly how to. I won't overblow my perceptions of this record. If you are interested in obtaining a copy of this, either reach out to Sendesh at Cyclopean Eye Productions, or feel free to just shoot me an email at fromcornersofthe at gmail.com, and we can, we can find a way to get you the album if it interests you. And the other albums we discussed, you can also grab those on Bandcamp as well. And as always, I will leave links for those records, as well as all the social media links for you to follow if you are interested.
That was episode 16 of Voices from Corners Unknown. You know what? I think this might actually be our longest episode yet. I don't see myself really deleting anything. We weren't necessarily rambling. Like, it was all good content. And
yes.
I'm glad whoever made it to the end stuck it out, because this was a good one.
Yeah. We hope you folks enjoyed it, and we will be back with another episode, with our next episode, and I think in that one too, we're going to be diving into something that's a little outside of our comfort zone as well, something in the vein of more electronic, a little more bassy sounding. So hopefully folks will be interested to hear us ramble about another genre we know very little about.
Yeah, bring it on. I'm down to sound like I don't know anything.
Yes.
But I will enjoy it.
As always, though, thank you folks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.